So my story that I'm presenting today is called The Wind in the Portico by Jean Bouchon. So when we talk about the plot of the story, which are the main events that are occurring, um, Henry Nightingale visits the city of Shropshire, a city in England, to view a rare manuscript. He finds he finds in the Shropshire a character named Doublé, which is the owner of a temple in Portico, and he has recently discovered a shrine that belongs to a god named Venus. So he has that shrine in his manor. When Nightingale reads the manuscript, he urges Doublé to not perform the ritual. The ritual, which consists of him uh, re- reconsecrating the shrine of Christianity in his manor and his temple. That's what ultimately the character wants in Doublé. That these are his major motivation in performing a ritual. Um, Nightingale advises Doublé to avoid the ritual. However, he ignores this advice, and then he later on in the story he is killed and his temple is burned by Venus. So moving on to some of the fantasy genres, we have urban fantasy, and some of the urban fantasy characteristics are the narrative taking place in the story has a urban setting in the form of Shropshire, which is an actual city which is located in the county of West Midlands of England, and it is also set in a contemporary timeline and contains many supernatural elements. The story's timeline occurs in 1914, which is in the 20th century. These two major themes of the fantastical elements happening in a contemporary city in a contemporary time are all major characteristics of urban fantasy, which is present in the story. Then there's also the coexistence between humans and paranormal beings. This include the characters of Vanus, Doublé, and Nightingale. The two characters of Doublé and Nightingale are humans. However, the character of Vanus is a god. Therefore, this establishes the coexistence between humans and paranormal beings. When we continue urban fantasy, there's more that happens in the story. For example, Nightingale explores a bond between Doublé and Vanus, the Celtic god which in the story is associated the Celtic god which is associated with Romans and Apollo. When Doublé ignores the advice of Nightingale to let go of his obsession to perform a ritual which will reconsecrate the shrine of Christianity in his home, this establishes a clear bond that Doublé and Vanus have. The main motif of urban fantasy that clearly relates to the story is destruction. So the end result for Doublé is that the ritual he performs leads to the burning of his temple and the death of him. Therefore, the motif of destruction. And there is also many gothic horror characteristics prevalent in the story. For example, the gothic horror element, which is the violation of religious space. A connection can be made that because Doublé wanted to perform an ancient ritual, which he was forbidden to do by the manuscripts, Doublé violated a religious space, which then led to the death of Doublé by the god in the form of Venus. Due to this, we can also explore another major theme in Gothic horror, which is revenge. Because Doublé violated Venus's religious space, he wanted revenge on Doublé by killing him and burning his temple where he wanted to reconsecrate the shrine of Christianity. Revenge is a major plot in Gothic horror, which is used in many stories, and this is no different. Because Doublé did something which was forbidden, this caused a reaction out of Vanus, which that reaction was revenge, and therefore a gothic horror characteristics is present. Quest fantasy is also another major theme in this story by the characters. Majorly, the characters are presented as a tragic hero, specifically Doublé. He is portrayed as a tragic hero and a mythical hero because first, from the archetypes of a tragic hero, Doublé commits his own downfall from his own free choice and action, and from the archetypes of a mythical hero, he meets his eventual death in the end. So, from a tragic hero, Doublé committed his own downfall by performing a ritual he was not supposed to do, and therefore he committed the ritual. He meets his eventual death in the end, which is consisted of the archetypes in a mythical hero. There's also many parallels to the hero cycle that Doublé goes on. So first is the call to adventure, where Doublé wants to reconsecrate the shrine of Christianity in his home by performing a ritual. He gets supernatural aid by Nightingale by reading the Theocritus manuscript. And then lastly, he meets his own self-annihilation through this cycle of through this hero cycle, which is his death. His self-annihilation is his death by going on this journey. Genteel fantasy, another last major characteristic in this story. So in this story, supernatural occurrences are present in the matter of fact. So it's presented in a matter of fact. For example, there is dialogue between Doublé and Nightingale, where Nightingale states that, "I hope it satisfied Vanus," and Doublé replied with, "I think so." From this exchange of dialogues, we can conclude that Vanus, who is a god in the story, is presented in a matter of fact, and that it's not weird or shocking that the supernatural occurrences are occurring in the story. Also, the language used in the story is Anglo-Saxon, which is not shocking because the story is taking place in the 20th century, where that language was majorly used. So in conclusion, overall, there are four major themes relating to the story, which is urban fantasy, gothic horror, quest fantasy, and genteel fantasy. However, the two most prominent ones are urban fantasy and gothic horror, due to the fact that there is a major presence of supernatural occurrences and that there are fantastical elements presented in a real city and in a real timeline. Thank you.